LCK 서머
Welcome
스플릿
back, guys, to
승강전 정말
2019
중요한 오늘의
LCK Summer
경기죠.
Split
1차전에서
promotion.
KT가
This is
승기를
day 1,
거뒀습니다.
and we're going to be
자,
jumping
오늘의
into
주요
match 2.
장면들 보기 전에요.
First,
대진표
in match
보면서
1,
얘기
KT
나눠보겠습니다.
Roster picked up a victory, so let's take a look at the schedules remaining.
자, KT가 VSG를 꺾었고요.
KT
이제
took
진에어와
down
ESS의
PSG,
경기가
so they
펼쳐집니다.
made it to the winner's match, and they're going to be facing up against the winner of the match 2 of today.
방금 전 KT가 보여준 것처럼 좋은 경기력 보려면 2대0으로 순식간에 끝낼 가능성이 있습니다.
It's going to be a really quick one if either Jin Air or ESS picks up a really quick victory, just like KT Roster did in the match 1.
네, 이제 KT는 승자전으로 직행을 했고요. 그리고
So KT
이번
Roster
경기에
is waiting for the winner of this match coming up.
네.
같습니다.
뭐 앞서 진행됐던 KT와 이 VSG의
And speaking of the match 1 of today,
KT 일방적인 경기가
it was a bit of a stump from the side of KT Roster,
확실히 KT가
especially KT kind of outplayed VSG during team fights.
선장전을 보더라도 KT의 압승 느꼈습니다.
운영적으로도
It was pretty much of a one-sided team fight over here.
상대가 좀 안 되는 느낌이 많이 났거든요.
And also they showed very good macro as well.
항상 전사자가 거의 적은 상태로 항상 이기 때문에
So KT Roster players barely lost their teammates and picking up multiple kills, but however VSG also showed some very decent team fights, taking down some of the KT Roster players.
탄탄한 모습을 보여줬던 반면 VSG 선수들 같은 경우에 다소의 급함.
However, VSG, the players seemed a little bit in a hurry because maybe that was due to a lack of experience. So, well, they still have chance in losers match. So we'll be looking forward to seeing what they can kind of pull off in the losers match 2 days later on Thursday.
네, 자 이렇게 1차전은 KT가 승리로
So that was the result of the match 1 of today.
기대해 보도록 하겠습니다.
And we'll be looking forward to seeing KT Roster showing another great performance on the winners match. Then let's take a look at the Jin Air Greenwings, their roster, and also their key points. They ended the spring split in 10th place, picking up only 1 match win throughout the whole split. This is their second time in promotions since 2017 summer split. Well, actually, Jin Air has been showing great performance with Root in the bot lane, so maybe we can rely on that today. However, we have to still wait and see what kind of strategy they could have prepared for today. And even though this is their second time in promotions, however, they did lose their Teddy, the nexus of their team. Well, I mean, everyone knows that how big kind of potential that Teddy had back in the days. So we'll have to wait and see whether Root can perfectly place Teddy of Jin Air. And let's take a look at the ES Sharks. They picked up 6 games winning streak at the end of the Challengers Korea regular split. So we can say they are in a really great momentum right now. By ending the regular split in first place, they have locked in their spot in the promotions. And they have Catch, Kuzan, and GuGer, who all have experience in LCK, so that can be another strength for ES Sharks today. So we also want to say that Kuzan is a player who has a lot of potential in the using AD champions in mid lane. So maybe ES Sharks can try some strategy playing around the mid lane.
네, 이렇게 해서 양 팀의
So we
분석까지
have checked
마쳐봤습니다.
some of the key players and key points of each team. So any predictions from Midori or Medline? Well, speaking of match 1, actually KT has a very big gap compared to VSG players. However, there isn't much of a gap between Jin Air Greenwings and EX Sharks in terms of career, so we cannot expect some of a bit of a stump, just like we did in the game 1. So it's gonna be maybe a close match today. So maybe some of the aggressive and proactive play from Jin Air will be really crucial.
아무래도 멘탈 싸움이라고 저는 많이
And
생각하거든요.
as
이런
MedLife
점에서
mentioned
흔들리지
before
않고
match
자신의
one, it
경기를
is all about
펼친다면은
mentality.
팀도 더
So
좋을 거라고 생각합니다.
I hope
네,
everyone,
두 분의 경기력
he hopes
기대하도록
every
하겠고요.
players can do their
과연
best
승자전에서
on today's game,
만날
and
누가 될지
we'll be
지켜봐 주시길
finding
바랍니다.
out who will be
지금부터
facing
경기
up against KT
시작합니다.
roster. So I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jisun, and welcome back, guys. I know it's been a long break if you were here with us for our first series where KT walloped VSG, and now it is Jin Air's turn to attempt to do the same thing against the ES Sharks, and this will be a more difficult matchup, says my bones. That's the feeling that I have.
And it'd be a big surprise if it wasn't a competitive series at minimum. ES Sharks, I think, come in marginal favorites for me. I've been watching quite a lot of challengers, and the level isn't quite how much Damwon were looking like shining lights in summer last year, or Griffin being 4. ES Sharks are a good, reliable team. If they make it to the LCK, they'll be a 7th to 9th place kind of team. But they're definitely a solid team, well coached. We know Lucio Park, their coach, Soul Strikes very, very well. They're a team that I think has some very defined limits. But I also think, on the whole, if I equate them to Jin Air, and not even talking about form, well, obviously they're in great form and Jin Air in no sort of form, I actually think they match up really, really well, unless Grace and Lindarang, who will be starting for Jin Air in game number 1, can have a big performance. My marginal favorites are the ES Sharks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you're looking at the bottom side of the map for Jin Air. We know that Root, it was already mentioned in the earlier analytical section, that he has been playing well here for Jin Air. He's no Teddy, but he's certainly strong. But Light and GuGer aren't necessarily the same level, as Kuzan will be taking on his former team. You can see the point of the match, the third one that we have here. Kuzan did spend some time over with Hanwha Life and Rocks Tigers when they were named that, but in 2017, he was a Jin Air Greenwing mid laner, and he played a hell of a lot of Corki.
And he was often one of the best players on Jin Air. You know, he was definitely one of those shining lights in the team next to someone like Teddy. And went over to Hanwha Life, had a very forgettable year. Last year where he played, I believe, 3 games all season, so...
Yeah, 2 actually in the season, and they weren't great.
And then he came on to ES Sharks, starting mid laner, and you're like, okay, it's cool that he gets a starting spot, but a year on the bench doesn't really set you up to be what he was in Challenger. Kuzan next to Mickey were by far the 2 best players in any role in Challenger. He was very, very impressive. The way they do MVP in Challengers is every series has just 1 MVP voted. It's not game on game.
Yeah.
He was series MVP in half their wins in 6 matches. By far, the season MVP in the regular season would have been Kuzan, and I come in heavily expecting him to outperform Grace in our series today.
Yeah, highest damage per minute out of mid laners in the entire Challengers career, so look for him to get some work done. He actually played 3 games of Lucian mid as well. He's had some fun different picks set up for himself, has old Kuzan, and has been back to his old Corki ways. Of course, Corki towards the end of 2019 spring has made his way back in. So Kuzan, of course, no stranger.
And 1st versus 11th doesn't mean as much because it's Challenger's career versus LCK stats, but given what I've seen of these 2 players, Kuzan has been in really excellent form. He's got the experience behind him. It's good to see him back on the LCK stage, first time in Lowell Park. Can he outperform Grace like Challenger's vision would suggest, or will this be the step up being difficult for the ES Sharks?
Exactly right, and in fact, Kuzan had the 3rd highest KDA in all of Challenger throughout the regular season, so we'll see whether he can keep moving that one forward. We're going to be introducing Jin Air first up. They will be on our blue side. As you can see, this is the roster that they have settled on. It's not going to be Kellen towards the bottom side. No Malrang in the jungle. Sees, retains his position. As you heard people talking about, no Tana towards the top side of the map. Lindarang is going to come in. Lindarang, of course, from Hanwha fame, going to be up against Kuzan, which is another fun matchup here between these 2 teams. Few similarities, but a lot of glaring differences given the fact that Jin Air's season has certainly not been very good in the LCK, and it's been beautiful for ES Sharks, qualifying without even having to go to playoffs, so they've had a lot of time to research Jin Air and work out how to pull them apart.
Actually fell into the lap of the Challengers organizers, but in the final week, the final best of 3 for ES Sharks was against APK Prince for overall 1st, and the way it works is, you finish 1st in the regular season, you're in this tournament. They didn't play the postseason over there, and ES Sharks 2-1 victors. They had the run of the play over all 3 games. Only 5 members, so no surprises in the lineups. Soul Strikes behind them, but at the end of the day, the ES Sharks, again, good team. I really enjoy watching them. In general, they want to play standard pick winning lanes, win through their laning phase. They play smart around objectives. They're a joy to watch. They are not Dumb One Gaming or Griffin when it comes to our expectations, but I think they do come in favorites, like we said a couple of times.
Yeah, exactly. And Jin Air, given the fact that they've been faltering so much, it's not difficult to visualize a world where ES Sharks are going to be taking on KT Rolster in a couple of days' time in that winners match on Thursday. We'll be bringing you that one, see whether KT are going to be able to make their way back in. But first, we need to find out who their opponents are. Jin Air Greenwings, you can see this is the roster they settled on versus the ES Sharks, the only roster they have.
A lot of players who played in major leagues. Jisu on Mysterious Monkeys in the EU LCS. Catch was on Spender Sonic Boom. Kuzan on Jin Air. GuGer was the captain of Kongnu Monster. Light is the only player here who hasn't played in a major region at the top level. Their solo laners for ES Sharks are very, very powerful. It challenges Jisu and Kuzan. No duo of threats could match these two players. Maybe Mickey could match Kuzan, but Jisu had a much better split than Iksu, and Iksu and Mickey didn't even make it to this tournament after losing against VSG, who, as we know, went down in our first series of the day. So the ES Sharks, the only worry is putting these five together, putting them in Lowell Park, it being this do-or-die set of matches. They are not eliminated if they lose today, but they want that double chance. Catch Cloud Templar, I guess some history between the two. From these fans, though, definitely players that are pretty well known. And here is our OPL finalist coach and OPL finalist as a player, Soulstrikes.
Fantastic Rek'Sai player back in the day, Pup Smithy, and I also had the pleasure of commentating a few matches with him as well.
I cast that final. It was myself and Pastry Time casting the OPL Spring 2015 final. We're 4 years later, and he finds himself as a coach of the best performing team in Challengers, so he's made a very good debut. It was his first split as a coach. Now it's his debut in the Lowell Park as a coach. Will we see any shenanigans between Jin Air and the ES Sharks? I think ES Sharks will be largely standard in their draft. If you're asking me who the Sonataric team is, it'll probably be Jin Air.
Well, we'll see whether Jin Air are going to prioritize it or whether ES Sharks are just going to ban away that option. As we get into pick and ban, as I mentioned earlier on, Jin Air do have side selection. They chose the blue side here. ES Sharks will have that potential counter pick, and that's important for Jisu. This guy is a Kled monster. He's a Renekton god. Hasn't lost on both of these champions over 11 games, Papa Smithy.
I know, I get jealous the Challengers casters because Jisu has 11 games undefeated on picks that no one could play.
Yeah, man, it's
in our
crazy.
league, every Renekton was outscaled. Kled just didn't get a visit.
The Jin Air strategy of not banning anything first round. I like it.
It could be a penalty. We don't know.
Yeah, didn't get any confirmation,
If we get
guys.
any updates, we'll let you know. But for now, at least, no ban. For first ban here, usually it's a penalty. Maybe they showed up to the arena late. We don't know. The Lysandra ban is Kuzan. Of course, Kuzan, a very famous Lysandra, LeBlanc, Vlad player. Those are the ones I remember this season been playing the Corki and other mid lane AD carries. His Aurelia was actually his pocket counter pick to Silas. Very impressive Aurelia with Wits End game that Kuzan played in the promotion tournament. It will draw a Silas ban, so both teams doing their research. Nice stuff.
Well, that's an Instalock on the rise. A fantastic pickup has been proven in the LCK to be really difficult to deal with if it is locked in first because it's so flexible. See where it is going to be going. Lindarang and Grace have both played it.
It's one of those things, though, where we don't talk about win rates for the Jin Air team because they won 3 games of League of Legends and lost 35. They have a negative 32 score. They are the worst statistical team in the history of the LCK.
If they have anything but a 0% win rate, it's a godly performance.
But guess what happens if they win 2 series in this tournament? 0% relevance for their regular season, and they're back next season. So you don't have to worry about what happened before, but you're right. Both have played it. The flex pick is real. ESS, they take a pretty standard duo, but with the Galio ban, it's going to be Tom Kench over the Galio for catch.
Yep. Now, Lindarang is considering a Poppy. We'll see where Jin Air want to go. If they want Sonataric, this is where you pick it. But at the moment, not considering it certainly is an option here and can work very well with the rise.
Here we go. Come on. Give us some Sonic. The Sonic duo is what the Korean fans call Sonataric. We got Rolster for Roller Coaster. Sonic for Sonataric makes sense. They'll hover it. They thought about it. But we will not see our first Sonic duo in the LCK.
Yep. And the Braum is going to be locked away. Interestingly enough, GuGer is 8-1 on that particular pickup at the moment, but ES Sharks didn't do a lot of losing, as Nova will be playing the Braum this time, Root thinking about the Ezreal.
And you would assume Light takes AD carry first round because ES Sharks really leave bot lane on an island. They don't win through bot lane. They very much a containment lane, kind of a softer version of Damwon Gaming's bot lane, where we talked about Showmaker Noguri, sometimes Canyon, but the bot lane de-emphasized. ES Sharks are the same.
Whoa!
Yet, Light is going to move on to his Vayne. He's played a bit of this. Notice a smile on Kuzan's face. He's still devilishly handsome, by the way.
Oh, yes, he is.
It's Kuzan.
Our handsomeness quotient fell down a long way when Kuzan was not in the LCK anymore.
Hanwha Life never played Kuzan, but every single poster,
Oh, I know.
Kuzan.
Oh, yeah. He was in the middle.
He
in
had
the very
extra
front.
time to do the Hanwha Life modeling, apparently.
He actually just sat in the makeup room the entire time the others were playing and practicing.
He wears it well.
He
That's all I
does.
can
He
say.
does. All right, Jace is going to be the first ban here in the second round for ES Sharks. Not wanting to deal with that one. And very interesting that no Jace was picked up in our first round of picks.
The missed ban also does kind of lead to some weird scenarios, so again, don't know what to make of that. Jin Air Greenwings in the second round. They got the flex on the rise. They will have to show who they're going to pick. A lot of teams love to take some very maneuverable solo laners, so Jin Air might want a Kennen, for example, or something else.
And I'm glad that we did our research, Papa Smithy, because that Lucian ban was aimed at Kuzan. Been playing it a lot.
He likes it mostly into the Corki. Actually, Kyle Templar and I were talking a lot about how Corki was becoming an instant answer to first pick Lysandra, and I was waiting for the first team to flex the Lucian into mid lane because Lucian has a great matchup against Corki. The first team was actually the ES Sharks in the promotion series. Kyle Templar casting that one and pointing it out to me. So at the end of the day, the Lucian is a power pick with Ignite as well, which is just so poggers seeing the mid lane Lucian with Ignite. Last time I saw that was Shia flexing on Faker's Orianna at MSI 2017, years ago now.
I also remember that game. Vladimir going to be banned away from Kuzan, certainly one of his favorites, one of the ones that you mentioned earlier on.
LeBlanc,
but there are
baby.
there are still a lot of champions available here. Kuzan wants to lock it away. It will mean that Jisu gets counterpick, so one of our solo laners will be locking something in here.
You wonder if it synergizes with that boy Renekton or that boy
Syndra.
Kled. Oh, I really, really, really hope we get a Kled, but we'll see what sort of matchups are drafted by Jin Air. They gotta show us what they're doing with their rise. I think Kennen would probably be a pretty safe choice for their team. They haven't indexed into any particular style of comp, so safety in a solo laner is pretty recommended.
Yeah, we'll see whether they decide to go. 7 seconds, though. They need to make up their mind. Root hasn't popped anything yet. It will be Grace locking away the LeBlanc. He had some decent performances on this champion. It was his Zoe that was able to get an MVP for the first time for Jin Air last time out. As now C's is thinking about the Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai falling to last pick on blue side is actually a huge deal, given her power level at the moment.
First LeBlanc of 2019 for Grace. Played in the past, but not so much this year. They're just going to go for a very standard power draft here. Skill matchup in the mid lane that often LeBlanc can get the lead on, but no guarantees on that. We just need to know who it is against Rise. Will it be the Kled or Renekton that Jesus is known for? He also has one as he played a Volley Bear top game.
Exactly. He didn't win,
Challengers.
but he still played it.
I mean, locking it in is more than half the battle with the Volley Bear. It's going to be standard. It's going to be Scion. So a meat shield front line. Interestingly, when all is said and done, if you say who the draft plays around the most, it will be Light on the Vayne. And that's not normally the side of the bread that ES Sharks bread is buttered on.
Yeah, exactly right, especially when you look at where all the experience is. We mentioned it earlier on, there is a lot of experience here for ES Sharks, both here in Korea and abroad. Of course, Catch went over to the LJL for a while. Of course, a lot of you will remember the name Detonation Focus Me, was their jungler for quite some time, and actually did have a lot of hype while he was there as well. GuGer spent some time on TPA, and many other regions as well, so...
Band of Misfits, I think, is a way to think about it. GuGer was that captain of Kongdon Monster, but not their most recent time. That was Secret.
Yeah,
as a starting support there. Two coaches shake hands. I think both of them come away saying, okay, we got a pretty standard draft here. No one's lost the game in draft, like that EU Masters game with first pick Sona, so that's a good news.
I'm glad we don't need to talk about that.
On this one. Pretty standard drafts on both sides. That means execution will probably be what's required. Jin Air, after their long spring of losing. ES Sharks on momentum. If you ask me, standard versus standard, who I like, I'm going to take ES Sharks 10 out of 10 times. But Jin Air could also make us a believer with a strong performance and hit the ground running in the first 10 minutes of game number 1.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I feel like standard-wise, front to back, ESS probably do have a little bit of an advantage, but Jin Air do feel like they spike with this composition at around the same times as this ES Sharks squad. So, Who's going to be able to just play straight up better League of Legends is the question, and it's always fun where it's almost skill matchups across the board because you really get an idea of who the better team is.
That's what we're going to find out. Let's get those cheers, and let's see how ES Sharks fans do. First time in LoL Park.
There's some diehard ES Sharks fans there in the audience.
They got their big woo in as well.
Yeah.
Ric Flair approved on that one. Here's Jisu.
Oh,
We
we're
were
doing
waiting
it.
for his spicy picks. How about some spicy lane assignments? The level 1 cheese. If you're against a team that ain't done much winning, cheesing them at level 1, and the mental boom is imminent.
But how many times does this Scion strat happen before you just expect it to happen? Because we've seen this so many times, and there are multiple Scion cheeses you can do. There's suicide strat to try and take buffs, things like that we've seen. But
Thing is, you don't see Sion that often, and he comes back, and it's
and then
the
you have
first
to
game.
remember all the weird stuff, yeah.
And you also consider, don't Ezreal and Braum really want first access to the minion wave at level 1? And thus, they're really incentivized to start the dunking on Vayne early, and then suddenly Sion cheeses them. So, a lot going on here. You have to run straight into the brush to make sure there's no lane ward. They know that for sure, but Nova should check this. Let's see if he puts a Q into the brush.
Yeah, where is Jisu going to stand? Jisun's going to be alongside to try and translate, but
Thank you for the translation.
Winter's Bite did actually register there.
He's staying. That's so tricky.
Oh my, this is the next level.
I know.
Next level.
Now he's teleported.
Okay,
He's like,
finally
how many
makes
minions
way.
can I miss? The answer's not that.
Yep. Okay. Well weighted there from Nova. Jisu comes up, misses one minion, but otherwise isn't punished too much, and he's just going to cop spells over and over again in this lane anyway.
It's a pretty sucky matchup against the Rise.
Yeah.
As Sion, we see a lot less Sion because his ability to shrug off damage got, toned down again and again. So, yes, he will probably be fine, but I think he will be taking plenty of hurt during the laning phase. Notice has gone Unsealed Spellbook for Shenanigans, so Jisu doesn't give us the Shenanigans pick in game number 1, but the Shenanigans Summoner will have to do.
Yeah. He tried for the Shenanigans, but just not enough came out. And I think we've now said Shenanigans enough. Any Super Troopers fans out there will know that we probably should avoid saying that too many times.
It feels like a word that most people retired, so we're bringing it back in style for game number 1. Looking at the rune choices here. See if our eyes are drawn to the approach velocity, very normal on the Braum. Ghost supports picking that one up, and it is, of course, the Taste the Blood Ravenous Hunter duo for Vayne. Remember that even though you max true damage burst, you do get Vamp from that Ravenous Hunter on the true damage portion, so sustain upon sustain for Vayne.
Yep. See whether it keeps Light in action here in this lane. Of course, I've personally always liked Vayne into Ezreal, just as a historic matchup, but I think it's a very different story when you turn the nameplates on, Papa, as you like to say. Root versus Light does certainly seem like a matchup that Root should have a pretty handy advantage in, just based on playstyle.
And Jin Air should count their blessings that, losing Teddy, getting a new 80 carry, we can still say that about Jin Air. Their 80 carry position is one where they've shone. Root has definitely had some bad games where he was one of the reasons the team lost, but as a player making his debut into LCK, that's not something that we're going to hold against him because he also had the pop-off performances, right? And if there was ever someone to invest money in on the side of Jin Air this season, it was Root. So overall, he's had, I would say, a pretty impressive first split in the LCK as a rookie. Now he needs to perform in the clutch, though. It's not the clutch playoffs you want to be in, but it's the clutch playoffs he's in.
Well, Light taken down to about half health, so at the moment, Root's having a great time in this Ezreal versus Vayne matchup. Mid lane, we were having a look. Kuzan had the wave in a decent spot, but was taking a fair bit of harass there from Grace, who has gone for the Electrocute Ignite. Just trying his very best to smash Kuzan in this lane state.
Given that we expected ESS to really kind of opt into getting advantages through solo lanes, we don't have any winning matchups for them. The best is kind of this Syndra LeBlanc skill matchup in the mid lane, so they haven't approached as we expected, and a lot of this is come in at 2 items and Vayne pops off. So speaking of Vayne, catches bot lane.
Yeah, and Nova almost eaten. Great knock into the wall there with the Condemn, but Root's able to flash and E to get himself out of the way. Grey health will keep GuGer alive for now, as C's comes on forward, and yes, I know I accidentally said GuGer, but he wasn't a GuGer in that situation. He kept himself up.
That was actually a really good condemn from Light.
Yeah.
Very nice angle on that Getting Summoner out of route is something. GuGer using his heal is definitely a lower impact loss of Summoner. No kill on either side, and no goobers just yet.
Not a goober just yet. As Nova and Root just shove this wave in, they will be able to get a really nice back timing there.
That's some good Klepto procs as well. 500 CS lead, but 18 CS. Some of it's going to be cleaned out, so it's not quite an 18 CS lead, but nice little laning phase there from Root. Only the Summoner that goes the way of ESS.
Yep, Lindarang going to make his way back, and he's actually gone Klepto on the rise, so just making sure that he can capitalize as much as he can from this positive matchup.
It went from a very specific champion, you know, GP and Ezreal only rune to basically a range versus melee rune. That's when we see it most reliably. So Lindarang going to farm up, and the real question is, who do you like at 2 items? Because both these teams spike very early, right?
Yeah.
I think ESS have the bigger front line. Rek'Sai with a Warrior and a Braum isn't the same as Sion. What we expect to probably be, and we'll see actually which type of job we see as mid lane.
Yep, Kuzan going to instantly use the cleanse. I don't think it's going to be enough. Gets stunned up, but in comes GuGer. And he's able to devour Kuzan and take him to safety. 100 health after the Ignite ticks down, but so far everyone's been playing damage control pretty effectively on both sides. It has meant that Jin Air have continued to have that laning advantage.
But Kuzan forced back, and what we said is a swinging matchup means at least CS going to go the way of Grace. They're greeting for turret blitz at the moment. They're going for many angles onto Catch, but he's going to be fine.
Yep. Going to be able to clear out, I believe, the Raptor camp as well. So no harm, no foul for this particular moment in time. Just feels like even though we're not seeing any kills, we're not seeing any direct results, it's Jin Air that are benefiting from all of this early action.
And that to me is already a surprise, because we thought above all else ES Sharks would be win lane, win game.
Yeah.
That's how they've approached a lot of their games in Challenger. Again, their solo lanes are who very often carry them through the game. And so for it to be a comfortable laning lead without any real jungle intervention to the side of Jin Air already goes against our prep, and you wonder if ES, yes, they haven't lost any game in draft, but they've also seemed to not amplify where they usually win from. And Jin Air kind of gleefully accepting what has been a pretty quiet first 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, I find this matchup especially very interesting, as that's a Silver Bolt's proc onto Root. It's going to hurt at level 6. With 3 points in it from Light.
For context, Light played 11 games of Kai'Sa. Definitely not a lane dominant carry pick, so just gets it going. 9-2, Ezreal 5-3, Lucian 4-1, the closest you get there.
Oh, that was
Catch.
cute. Yeah, comes in.
Steal.
Benefits from the control ward and does use the blast going to get himself over towards this Mountain Drake, who'll wake up and won't cop anything from Catch just yet.
You can go Warrior Jarvan this game. We see almost always Cinderhawk, and you say, okay, meat shield for Vayne, that's the way you should expect, but it's Sion top lane, right? So you have an ultra tank, not a temporary tank in the top side. So Warrior enchant, and then just one rotation. Syndra Jarvan has burst range on most of Jin Air at most points in the game, so I actually wouldn't hate Warrior enchant Jarvan this game. So I assume Cinderhawk, I waited for the extra info, we get the Cinderhawk, so that does mean that now the Syndra has even less to work with from the jungle role. I don't know, it feels like a lot of breathing room for Jin Air.
Yeah, could be a little bit of a rough one, especially if they're going to try and gank Lindarang. Getting any damage onto him will be rough with just the Sion and a Jarvan. However, base damages for Sion in the early game are certainly nothing to scoff at, as our Root doesn't get Silver Bolt. Will therefore be completely fine shoving this wave further in.
You said Silver Bolt. Can't we say Silver Bolted?
Oh yeah, I should have.
That's a better one.
Yeah.
You guys don't know, one of my initial impressions of Atlas Zakasta way back when, he had this terrible habit of making...
Hey,
habit? I'm telling my story, you can tell your story.
Okay.
You had a terrible habit of making every single skill name into an adjective.
Yeah, no, a verb.
A verb, sorry. So like, relentlessly pursued, excellent one.
Yeah, ardently blazed, fantastic one. Piercingly lit, brilliant.
I mean, both those are really funny.
Tumbled, that's great.
Yeah,
We
but
can use that
tumbled is
one.
just a thing.
Yeah,
There was one
Dark
in particular that made me very angry. I don't remember
Ardently
it.
blazed made you really angry. I remember that one.
That one made me.
That was the one that you did not like it at all.
Look, that was pretty lit. That's pretty
That was piercingly? I don't know. There are a few. There's a few abilities that you just straight up can't do it with, which is a little bit frustrating.
Do you remember our first cast?
Yeah, I do. That was ACL Sydney in 2013. Smithy?
you remember much about it, apart from the fact that we
I remember
casted
my
at that
hair was
tournament?
ridiculous.
It was. You were still named Slappy Baggins back then.
I was named Slappy Baggins back then. And what else do I remember?
I remember there was some StarCraft casters there. Maynard
There
was
were.
there.
Yeah,
Remember
Maynard
that.
and Zeph were next to us, making so much noise. Maynard, if you know who he is, he's got big dreadlocks. He's a fantastic guy, very friendly, but extraordinarily loud.
And we cast, an LCK final together with LS a few days ago. I'm thinking about how different that stage was to that,
Oh, yeah.
our ACL Sydney backstage. ACL Sydney or Melbourne?
ACL Sydney.
Sydney, yes.
I did Melbourne earlier on with Menace that year.
Why'd you change Slappy Baggins? What a name.
I did with Menace, and Hot Soggy Noodles was my other co-caster. He had some fun names back
Dale
then.
Never Fails.
Dale Never Fails, who changed his name then.
He was one of my teammates on...
Mind Freak back in the day?
No, before that. We're still talking about 2015.
Oh
but,
my goodness.
Nothing's happening in this game. ES Shark's going to run at the Mountain Drake and take it.
True Shot Barrage almost steals, but there's a smite there for catch, so he'll be fine.
Now, he was top laner of my team. I was jungler, in case people were wondering, and now I'm a terrible jungler, but never mind. But my mid laner, Chief Swiffer, or better known as the mid laner of Order over in Oceania, couldn't quite make it, runners-up of that tournament. He's still playing pro, and I've been retired for like 6 years.
I know.
So weird. He was a baby back then. He was 17 and I was 25, so there was an age gap on that team for sure. I was the joker of the team, I guess.
Yep. I remember back on, he went from there to Exile 5, I believe, and that was when I was casting that ACL Melbourne competition. It's still playing with his mate Spooks. Probably a few Oceanic fans
and we got
watching
our
right now. We're
OG
at a pretty good
and
time.
Soul Strikes as coach
Exactly.
of good old ESS Sharks. Come on, it's the promotion.
Yep.
This is our time to go off target. Nothing's happening in this game.
Well, Root's actually taking a lot of damage towards the bottom side of the map. Silver Bolt's landing. The ultimate is in there. The flash through. Nova just dies mid-air. He was trying to bring down the fissure, but it never even happened.
And that was the ignite on the match, it feels like, and suddenly an all-in bot lane. That's why Vayne was always light against Ezreal in a long lane. The chase extends even after things like Flash and the Arcane Shifter used.
Oh, that
Red Buff
was really
got
cute.
very, very concerned, but is going to live, and suddenly, first blood ES Sharks.
Yep. Top side of the map as well. I mean, Jisu's not down by as much as he could have otherwise been. Looks like Abyssal Mask will be coming in here for the Scion. Doesn't feel fantastic anymore, but should be keeping him alive against Lindarang. Seas has started off. Shelly.
They don't have a spot on the health bar of Shelly right now, which is actually really frustrating. They don't know. They probably could have walked up and postured for a fight. They're going to come in pretty late. They still don't see the health bar until now.
Yep, they get the vision of it. Seas
Okay,
takes
we're
that
fighting
one
anyway.
away. All right, the choo-choo train comes forward. He skips past Lindarang, but the Cataclysm is there to stop the Scion from getting through. True Shot Barrage does do some work as GuGer has to gobble up Kuzan. But you can see Lighty's starting to pop up again. The Braum falls down. Kuzan has to flash. The cleanse is there for the ignite, but he's so low. Void Rush will finish him off, and now Light follows him through. All the damage is now dead as they have to try and escape. But the Realm Warp is going to follow them through. Jisu gets locked down. He'll go into the Zombie Scion form, and I have a feeling it's going to be a very early ace for Jin Air, and in fact, that's the fact.
Not a perfect ace, but an ace nonetheless. And Atlas, you don't need to see the comms to know that that was definitely ES Sharks caught between two ideas. The moment that the choo-choo train hits the wall and doesn't even get initiation after the Rift Herald was down. They called the fight late, they mis-executed on it. Rift doesn't die, I guess he got that going for him, but
Very close to.
a bit of a comedy of errors, and ES Sharks have been the architect of their own downfall.
Yeah, let's have a look at it one more time. Shelly gets taken. They almost deny it from Seas, but he does get through and tunnels out.
The ult starts when Rift Herald is never going to be their objective. They have negative synergy between the Cataclysm and the Unstoppable Onslaught. Definitely an I'm helping moment on the Cataclysm. And yes, they get the first kill, but even now, they're meandering. Light is meandering next to Kuzan as ES Sharks are checking with vision at the top. They get aced on the takedown here. Jin Air have a lot more mobility with things like the Realm Warp and just LeBlanc as a champion. They gleefully accept the 5-kill donation and the Rift Herald from ES Sharks.
And Grace played that fight so incredibly well, but he was extraordinarily close to being condemned into that Baron Pit wall. Things could have gone very differently if Light had have had that one on lockdown, but unfortunately for ES Sharks, It wasn't going to be the case. Jisu pushes that cannon minion out of the way. See whether they are going to be all right.
And it does paint a picture of what we were talking about, where we say, oh, you're going to play this way, you could win this way, but that's not how your bread is buttered. That's not how you usually play. And comfort for a team coming from challengers is so important, Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming into an unfamiliar territory. Some of these players, you know, they've played so much of their career over at Afrika TV in that challengers arena. Now they come on to the LCK stage with a bigger crowd, with people cheering. They need to fall back to something. You need to find something to hold on to. And they're playing a comp that plays away from their usual win conditions. They don't normally dog it in the laning phase for a 5v5 fight that light covers. That's not how they usually approach. So I feel like we're seeing that where it came to a team fight, their call is split, and the play also doesn't fall into place.
Yeah. A little bit of a shame, but they still do have time to turn this one around. I actually quite like ES Sharks' composition against Jin Air in the late game. You know, I know that we were talking about the fact that they scale up alongside quite nicely, but if you've got everyone with lots of items, it feels pretty good. As okay, Jisu goes very aggressive. Catch is making his way up as well. We mentioned this, the fact that they don't necessarily have a lot of damage, and Lindarang just waits for all the CC and walks his way out.
I'm pretty sure Lindarang, if he had flash up, could run away from them. So yes, with Jarvan, eventually Cinderhawk Jarvan does 300 damage, but we saw a Rakan with Baron backdoor next to a Jarvan in that G2 versus Fnatic game. So Cinderhawk Jarvan doesn't really do any sort of damage.
And also there's a Void Staff already built after the Seraph's Embrace on Lindarang. He is super far ahead.
Yeah, Lindarang is rich.
He like pole vaulted his way in this lane after the last little while. It was just a gigantic spike in money in CS.
This feels like, for once, Jin Air are the jocks in college, and
yeah,
ES Sharks are like the high school kids, the hotshots trying to come in, because they're having their lunch money stolen by double Klepto, and ES Sharks made a mistake, and yeah.
And by Prey Seekers, as it turns out.
They're having their lunch money stolen by a whole squad.
Yep. Jin Air quit the chess club, and now they're straight onto the track, Bubba Smithy. I don't know what's happening.
Apparently they should have got on the track earlier.
I know. Just they've really mismanaged their skill set, I think. As Light is still there with 2 kills. He has Blade of the Ruin King completed, and Vayne does do things. Once she gets some items, probably wants to have that Ginsu's built up. Right now it's all about Jin Air here. 5 and 2, and an Infernal Drake has been taken already. Mountain will be the next one. Well, that was cute from Grace.
But side lane Syndra, yes. Again, we talked about how Syndra and LeBlanc, when they press their buttons predictably on each other, it's pretty even. In the side lane, LeBlanc's got mobility, and Syndra doesn't. She doesn't want to be in a side lane. You know, potentially away from blue buff, depending on the teleport situation as the game goes on. Jisu has the teleport cleanse, which is just about repelling a potential Rise all in, but certainly isn't going to be the most useful teamfight spells. We already noted the Void Staff mean that the side lane going to be perilous for Jisu. He's going to have to start building armor at some point. Things are really not falling into place, and well,
see you, Lindarang.
Yep. Even the blast plants on the Jin Air side, on the ESS side, are being stolen by Jin Air.
Yeah.
What else can they steal?
I don't know. I don't know what's left. As C's is coming on around, looking for Kuzan. Gonna find him though, but that does mean that they have inside access to the inner turret, out of falling in the mid lane relatively quickly. And honestly, it feels like things are just falling apart for ES Sharks. The really rough thing is that if you lose the first game as a team coming up from Challenger, it's so much harder to dig deep and find that second game victory. There just isn't that stage experience that you get from being at LoL Park for an entire season.
And I think as some people will be coming in and watching this tournament, it's getting better viewership than in previous years because Challenger's career was the hotness, right?
Oh, yeah.
We had 3 out of 4 teams promoted in the last 2 promotions, and all 3 of those teams made playoffs this season. So I think it's not unfair for someone who didn't watch Challengers to come in and say, oh, is it the new Griffin Damwon sandbox in this tournament? And we already knew the answer was no. There was not that much talent left over. At some point when you have Griffin, Damwon, Sandbox all get promoted, and 15-man roster from Hanwha Life, and also 10-man rosters elsewhere, there just can't also be another overflow of immense talent. I think over the course of all the teams, yes, there's 5 players who wouldn't look out of place in LCK, but not on one team.
Okay.
ES Sharks standarded their way to this tournament. I don't know if standard's going to be enough to
Well,
win it.
there's the flash condemned to straight up not hit Lindarang. Guts him out of the way of the train as well as he gets the passive sidesteps, and Cataclysm finally finishes him off. But it's a 1-for-1. He just murdered Light on his way out.
Yep, that's the only way to talk about it. Light trading his life for Lindarang, and outnumber isn't great news for ES Sharks across the map. The gold lead only extends for Jin Air.
Yeah, Light flashing to miss a condemn is certainly not a highlight, as Nova is going to get stunned. Will they be able to take him down? The door not in the right spot, but Kuzan does invest the ultimate to try and get rid of just a brawl.
He tried to hold the door, and it's Game of Thrones season, so it seemed like a important thing to point out. The door in this case a little bit too flimsy. We're going to watch the replay, and it's...
I don't want to see this replay.
Well, it's Light trying to make a piggyback play, because they understand that Sai on the side lane is always going to lock down Rise, and then theoretically, Vayne just kills him. Unfortunately, this Rise already has 600 damage overloads, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Catch at least gets a whole bunch of money, but he isn't Warrior Jarvan. So where is that money going? It's going to try and build himself a relatively early Gargoyle Stone Plate, which I don't think is going to be winning ES Sharks any games.
All right, Atlas, Game of Thrones came back. We can't spoil it, obviously, because some people haven't watched it, some people haven't caught up.
Yeah.
The most recent episode is like, what, 30 hours old?
Yeah,
Give me a
like that.
one-word, non-spoiler review of the episode.
I don't really want to.
I've got one.
Oh, yeah?
Glad play.
All right. Yeah, that's a decent one.
So your work, whether it's right now or whether you take your time, one-word review, non-spoiler of Game of Thrones. Season 8, Episode 1.
Nah, I'm just not even going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's just I in fact tweeted about this. I think that if you spoil anything, you're a bad person. As Kuzan's going to have to flash. Does do so. That is going to get them out of there. Grace just goes back to his original distortion, which is why he disappeared. Do get the flash out of the Syndra, though, and he has to go back home, does Kuzan.
And awkwardly, Jin Air is getting so much of the map objectives before we even have 2 items on Light. Light got 2 kills. He had a pretty decent game, right? He's been the benefactor of some scenarios, but he doesn't even have teamfight items, and all ES Sharks drafted for was, we've got initiation and solid lanes, Vayne can carry us. And they need that Vayne ready. This is the first point when the items are there, but it's going to be so telegraphed and predictable, and if LeBlanc just WQRs the Vayne to half health, suddenly all of the team win condition is gone for ES Sharks.
And the access onto Light is pretty comfortable as well, and then their chase down with the Realm Warp, as we saw earlier on, is pretty easy. Even C's at this stage of the game is a big threat, almost with the Hysterics Gauge in hand. I just feel like, you mentioned it earlier on, this is not the kind of composition we were expecting out of ES Sharks, and I feel like it's resource management that is the biggest letdown here for this Challengers career team.
When the ultimate payoff is, you probably should win team fights in the mid game, and everything else is fuzzy, was it worth it, right? Is the easy answer to that, and I think for me, especially knowing where Kuzan and Jisu have carried so many games on Renekton, Corki, all these things, I would argue no. Jisu shorts the R.
He does. He gets taken down to about half health. It's Light. He's frontlining. That is not what you want to be doing. Does have the ultimate and finally gets himself into a decent position. Gets the tumble, but Grace gets into the backline. And Lindarang is gigantic. Eventually, the quadra kill comes in. Light gets 1 kill, but that is not going to be enough. 11-5 as Jin Air are just rinsing ES Sharks.
And that absolutely is the greatest illustration of our point. Not worth it to get this Vayne to this point. Initiation shorts, the options short, the quadra kill is ordinary. Jin Air turn on to Baron, Infernal, whatever they want. I believe all objectives are Jin Air's.
Oh yeah, the Glad plane is flying real high here today. It's been a while since we've been able to say it, but frontlining Vayne, that's the start of a bad story, Papa.
Yeah, I mean, Catch is nowhere near, right? They're trying to herd away Grace, I guess, in the back line. It's just too easy. Front to back, taken down. Everyone in front of him was supposed to be the Vayne story. It was amusingly Lindarang's story on the rise. This is too big a lead for the enemy comp to answer, so I think we're all ready. If we're ES Sharks, wanting to get back, talk to our coach, and work out a Game 2 plan that's a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah, they are going to be able to side switch here in game number 2, so we'll see whether ES are going to be able to get themselves a priority pick that they like to play around. Jin Air, of course, feeling really dominant here in this game, though.
May I introduce you to epically fed raid boss Rise.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a performance like this from Lindarang in a really long time. We did get treated to it quite a few times when he was on Hanwha Live.
It's Darius, one
Yeah.
of the very memorable picks for him, and yeah, on Jin Air. I mean, he hasn't even been playing that much recently. They've preferred Tana from time to time, but comes in, suddenly a raid boss. Sion was never going to be one to stop him in the lane. It was all about stifling, and unfortunately, no stifling has been impacted if you're an ESS fan. This Rise is way too big, way too early, and Jin Air with the Baron attacking in multiple lanes.
Yeah, Kuzan as well. The Syndra not exactly great. Dealing with Baron minions. Even a Siege minion's going to be left alive. Lindarang towards the top side. It's a true 1-2-2 at this stage as the train is going to park its way towards mid lane, but
no, hit the curb!
yeah, it's a bit of a bonk. That's a bonk.
That's going to leave
Some
him on.
observers.
It is. He's going to have to go back to the body shot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They've got those. I've seen Pacific Rim. If he's got that particular skin on at the moment.
Agreed, Mecha
Yeah.
Sion.
Yeah. So at least he will be able to get back to the shop. But he's not going to be done for a little while. And right now, feels like he's just going to have to work with having a bit of a rough time so far this game. True Shot Barrage is avoided with a tumble there from Light.
We've learned not to send Jisu to the LCS for the Sion drifting game.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Needs
I think
some
he's failed 3 times so far.
But his Kled's so good.
Oh, it's another Vayne gank.
It is.
Lindarang may
Rise
just
gonna-
kill him. Yeah, first overload hits, the flash comes in, misses the condemn again. As, okay, doesn't actually kill him on the way out, but there's no way Lindarang is
the base,
dying
guys.
at this
The base,
stage.
the base, by the way, the base.
Yeah.
the base.
No, but we're going to kill Lindarang.
No, but the base.
All right, okay. Well, Kuzan is now just trying to find some minions to hit. Can't actually get there. Inhibitor falls in the mid lane, will fall on the top side as well. And what did we just gather there, ES Sharks? I think the answer is not a heck of a lot.
If you're going to
Well,
Vayne
is
flank,
it-
why didn't you draft carries so Vayne could try to flank? The whole point is to fight behind the thick boys.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
This game of Vayne spotting is going to make someone very sick, I think. As Root comes on over, he's going to help grab the second Infernal Drake here for Jin Air. I don't know why they're tidying this one up. I have a feeling they can just shove into the base, but they don't have too much longer on the Baron. Just want to do some table setting, collect red buffs, red drakes, a whole bunch of items. Head back and win this game.
Well, unfortunately, ES Sharks have shown that the step up to the LCK has been much more pronounced than any of our recent teams, even Every winners. They didn't promote in the LCK Summer 2018 promotion, just a year ago from now. But I think they had some more convincing points. They went to full 5-game series against MVP in that particular tournament. ES Sharks came in standard, but winning through lane counter picks. Didn't drop the lane counter picks, and unfortunately are coming away looking like very much a Challengers team. So if they decide to go this strategy again in game number 2, I think their exit could be pretty swift.
Yeah, I think what disappoints me is the fact that we're not seeing what ESS used to win so many games. And I feel like here it's a showcase for what you're capable of, and if you don't play your style, then I feel like you're just stifling yourself.
You know what's even worse? If you don't even know what your style is.
Well, that's true.
To me, that's the thing that you should have worked out over 16 best-of-3s and challenges, right? So,
especially when we think we know what their style is, they haven't figured it out, then it's a big question mark.
Sion was a very big departure from what we expected here.
Yep. First pick Rise, though, is a scary one. So I do like that Jin Air were able to capitalize on it so effectively. I have a feeling we're not going to see it in game number 2. Grace moving on up here in the mid lane as Lindarang's unchallenged versus Jisu taking this inhibitor down. Jisu even takes half of his health bar. The last remaining inhibitor is now under fire as the train once again is just going to crash into the wall. Jisu in trouble. Blade of the Ruin King comes forward. Nova doesn't find the ultimate, but still they're in a good position. Ultimate flies onto Grace, but isn't going to pick up the kill as Catch is going to be low. Light dies as an afterthought there to Root, who's just throwing spells out left, right, and center. And Jin Air should be able to take this game here just as 30 minutes ticks over. Nexus turrets are obliterated by this Rise. He's an artillery cannon. As Jisu, he spent some time on the fountain. It was not long enough. Still some low health bars here as they dive forward. Catch does go golden. Jisu is relatively tanky, trying to get on that tank line, but once They decide to take him down. He is very dead, and Nova is the only target he can move towards. The Nexus is going to go down, and Jin Air Greenwings, the Glad plane flies right over the top of ES Sharks.
Absolutely, Atlas. Honestly, they seem to put ES Sharks out of their misery in game number 1. Jin Air was the one that often had to be put down after faltering in an early game. Suddenly, we changed tournaments, and ES Sharks, a lot of concerned looks on their faces. They wouldn't have expected this result, but given all the variables we outlined, by the end, it was just an honest victory from Jin Air. All you can do is beat the team in front of them. Kuzan still finding a time to smile, but I think it's time to rush to the back and to try to pick up the pieces from what was a very poor showing in game number 1.
Yeah, and let's just say, I mean, if you guys were watching the first series after this, it was VSG swapping out all of their players. If ES Sharks did that, there'd be no one on the desk. So they have to come back and try and redeem themselves after that one. Momentum certainly not on their side, but I just want to see them pick some champions that we know they are good at, that we know they can win on, that is a composition that they have set themselves up for, because this was not an example of that. You can see Kuzan still looking absolutely fine here backstage. I imagine that ES Sharks have a lot of work to do.
He just kind of played Syndra and didn't really get to do too much in this game, so definitely not one of the reasons they won, not a core reason they lost. I think they really need to work on their draft for game number 2, so Lucio Park on the right. Gonna have to find a way to get something out of their big carries. I think Jisu and also Kuzan need to find some fireworks champions that can ignite a game, because this was just Jin Air kind of just finding a very standard victory in game number 1.
Yep, just straight up smashing them in almost every lane. I think bottom lane was the only place that things went slightly okay for ES Sharks, as they were able to win that 2v2. But as you can see, it wasn't about the bottom lane. How many more?
He did more than the whole team.
Yeah, he also did more than 5 times the damage of the Scion.
I mean, he did the same as the whole enemy team, so...
Yeah, okay, that's good.
This rise was...
No, it's almost exact.
I know. Let me do the math. 18.5, 21.8, 26.8, 29, it's like 30.7, so yeah. I mean,
almost
97% of the enemy team's damage was just the rise. Okay.
Yeah, well, Jin Air won. I think you can get your Glad planes out for that one, I guess, at least for game number 1 in isolation.
Of all the parallel universes, I'm surprised we ended up in this one.
Yeah. It's not what I was expecting out of this series. Hopefully we get something different from game number 2 from ES Sharks. I want to see the Kled. I want to see the Renekton. Come on, Jisu, don't play Scion. You can't even drive the train. We'll see you after the break.
빨간 팀의